Well, hello, it's Hidden Gems time, and I'm your host, Deanna Bradley. This is part 2 of a segment that we did last weekend, talking about life after incarceration. I have a new guest with me. I met this beautiful soul a couple of weeks ago. I think it was in May, where we did an event together dealing with Mother's Day, and it was all in the name. I think that was Miss Lenora Washington was in charge. But I thought that her story was so amazing, so much so that I invited her here this evening. Hi, Miss Murphy. Good to see you again. So let's start. I'm going to jump in, okay? Give us the beginning.
What do you want to know?
I want to know your life as a young lady growing up. Where are you from? So let's get a little background here before we jump into the good stuff.
So I'm originally from Fayetteville. I grew up between Tiffany Pines, University Estates, Murchison Road, and Grovey Terrace.
Okay, so you're native here from Fayetteville. Awesome. What was childhood like? You want to give us a little sneak peek into that? How was...
Initially, my childhood was great. I had a single mom, and I really didn't know what a struggle was in the beginning. I was a straight A student, and I was just real sheltered in the beginning. And I used to always tell my mom to go out and meet people. And then when she met people, she met the wrong people.
Oh, wow.
So then my mom got introduced to drugs, and my life just kind of changed at that point.
Okay, so even though, and it's a shout out to the single parents, because unless you've had to do it, you will never understand the hardships, the obstacles that single parents face, whether it be a mom or it be a dad. You cannot identify. So I understand, and shout out to those single parents. Yeah. You said you felt like you were sheltered. Mm-hmm. You didn't know what it meant to kind of struggle because mom always had that together.
Yeah.
So when it all started going left, how did you respond? How did that affect the life that you knew or that you were accustomed to?
To go from not liking to be dirty and, playing outside and a straight A student to a behavior student, grades failing and, no lights, no food, no clean clothes, go from having your own home to living in people's houses who everybody get high and that's just what you around.
Gotcha. Absolutely. And sometimes the decisions that we as parents make, they can have such a negative impact on the lives of those that we love the most.
Yeah.
So take us to, because the segment is entitled Life After Incarceration. What led up to the incarceration, if you don't mind sharing that?
So for me, I've always been a person to not feel like I'm exempt from anything. So I just felt like I had 2 choices. I didn't realize I had 3.
Gotcha.
But I had 2 at the time. And it was assimilate to what I see my mom them doing, which is use drugs, or assimilate to what I see coming in the house, which is the drug dealers.
Wow.
So I chose to assimilate to what I saw coming in the house, and I began to sell drugs. And that's what led to me going to prison. Of course, it wasn't like I sent myself in per se. It's always somebody else doing the job of the police to help them catch who you are. Mm-hmm. So it was one of those type situations, and but I still accept accountability because it was my choice to sell drugs.
Absolutely.
I had a third option, which my third option that I didn't realize until after the struggle was I could have just pushed through. Had I pushed through and just, bared with the bullying or bared with the lack of, and just remained a straight A student and just pushed and did what I needed to do, then it could have been different. But at the time, I didn't know about that. And I didn't know that could be an option.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that that kind of made me gravitate towards you, because you sat beside me at the platform. And I'm going to share this little bit because I think I did share it with you at the event. when you sat down beside me, I looked over and I was like, uh-oh, I was like, what's getting ready to happen? And that's no shade or anything like that, but you just had this I'm not gonna take no mess from anybody type demeanor. So, but then I heard your story and you shared it so beautifully, so eloquently, and with conviction, because we had some young people in the audience that, may have made decisions that were not the best decisions, but they made them nonetheless, and they were owning that. And I think I told you at that time that people needed to see you just that raw, to know and understand it doesn't matter what your life was like. Those choices are yours. You can choose to do better or you can choose to get bitter. And I'm so thankful that you chose to get better, because your testimony is amazing. And so to fast forward, what are you doing now?
So after doing almost 10 broken up years in federal prison, and coming home, I just got to say that I was grateful for the people that God had placed in my life going into prison and coming out. So it gave me that sense of I got a support where I didn't have a support.
Absolutely.
And I got to share this to make this make sense. When I was in school, my 5th grade teacher used to always ask us, what do we want to be when we grew up? Mm-hmm. At that time, a lot of kids don't know. But I always told her I wanted to be a hairdresser and a social worker. And as we progressed, I ended up having her again in the 7th grade. And she asked us again, what do we want to be? And it never wavered. I wanted to be a hairdresser and a social worker. I wanted to be a social worker because I felt like you got a child that's a straight A student who begins to fail, getting in trouble. Mm-hmm. That's a cry for help.
Absolutely.
And I felt like nobody saw me crying for help.
Wow.
And I'm not saying I wanted somebody to come and take me from my mom, but I wanted somebody to come in and help us.
And show that they
and help her in her addiction. Because it was a disease. It had became a disease for her and a mental health issue for her.
Absolutely.
That's why I wanted to be a social worker. And so I came home from prison and I went to cosmetology school, so I am a licensed beautician. I've critiqued that to become a hair loss specialist with it just as well. Okay. I love the essence of doing hair as therapy for me. Mm-hmm. I love the essence of making other people feel beautiful. You never know what a person is going through, but when they sit in your chair and you can transition Absolutely. What it is when they walk in the door to when they walk out, you could be changing a person's life and never know it. My mother always stood firm on Hebrews 12. Oh, wow. Be kind, be mindful how you treat people. You could be entertaining an angel.
Unaware, absolutely.
So everybody that sits in my chair at the salon becomes close friends or close family. And I believe in just resonating through that. I graduated from FSU with my bachelor's in social work. I did that with SUMA and a 4.0.
Yes.
During that stage, I was a McNair Scholar, which is a very competitive portion to get into to teach you about research. I wanted to begin to research and understand what was going on in the community that looked like you and I. I left there, graduated, and I went to advanced standing at NC State. I wanted to understand the experience of HBCU and the PWI and what makes the learning different. And I enjoyed my stay at NC State. It was actually an amazing experience for me, even though COVID transferred us to strictly online. Yeah. But it was still an amazing experience. So I graduated from there with my master's in social work with a concentration in opioid intervention and prevention. I also am I'm a certified financial social worker as well. I recently just got my provisional license to be a substance abuse therapist, which is the LCSA. And I just recently was awarded by the social work board to have my provisional license as a social worker. So I'm a dual licensed therapist, and I work right now with LifeNet Services during my hours to take my test and have my provisionals fall off.
You better do it. Look, let me tell y'all something. The admiration is so high. And the reason is because, I'm an educator. And a lot of times in our classrooms, we have little girls just like you were. And so many times and so often, the teachers or administrators or whatnot are so busy with status quo. Sometimes we miss those subtle cues where that child is there. Because believe it or not, the most teaching is done when we're silent because the kids are watching our actions. It's not enough to say this is what I want to do, but the thing that I most just adore about you is that you did it. You put your words into action.
Yeah, I'm almost finished.
Girl, yes. And so,
finished.
These are those hidden gems, and that's the point of this podcast, is sometimes we overlook the obvious. It's right there. Everybody wants stardom. Everybody wants their name in lights. Everybody forgets about the next person. But hidden gems is just for that, because in order to find most gems, you have to dig, because they are under the dirt. They're where nobody else is willing to look. And as a result, we have some of the most beautiful examples. And from me to you, thank you so much.
I'm not finished. Next year,
Go ahead.
I graduate next year with my PhD in criminal justice.
Oh my
leadership.
gosh. Okay, I'm done. Whoo, girl. Yes and yes. Yeah. PhD in the house. Are you gonna write a book?
Everybody keeps telling me to write a book. Majority of people I meet through my community activist work with my nonprofits. Mm-hmm. So everybody keeps telling me to write a book. I'm not a big writer, so they're like, you can use a ghostwriter or whatever, but I definitely have been taking that in consideration to write a book. I think I want to do more or less my story, mm-hmm. but I want to do more or less a self-help book. Okay. Because a lot of times for young black men and women mm-hmm. who've been incarcerated, a lot of times people don't really understand. We become a different person. Mm-hmm. Things in our life change. And even though I've been to prison, I've been to federal prison, I believe that prisons are designed for somebody, not everybody.
Exactly.
Some people need mental health help. Some people need substance abuse help.
Absolutely.
So I want to do something that allows people to understand the difference, which will in turn decrease the overpopulation of prisons, because not everybody is designed to be in prison.
Absolutely.
Nobody wakes up and say they want to rob banks or sell drugs. There's different things that happen. With my nonprofits, I want to be able to educate the generation like myself who've made enough errors that it's time for us to stand up and be strong for the younger generations that are walking in our footsteps.
Yes.
Not keep allowing music to raise our children.
Oh.
Social media and all these different things, because the one thing I stand firm on is I'm never going to ask you to do something that I can't do. So I'm not going to ask you to help me solve a crime if I can't help you solve a crime. Every life should matter.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
So with everything that I do, my goal is to educate, inspire, build, and teach people that your past doesn't define your future.
You better talk about it.
You do.
Talk about it. Well, you know what? I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
For just wanting to come on and share that wealth of knowledge, for real. And this has been a wonderful segment, and thank you guys for tuning in. Every Saturday, some of you have been talking to me in my DMs and everything, because it just is what it is. We're here to make a difference. That's the purpose of GEMS, and this is the purpose of Hidden Gems podcast. I'm Deanna Bradley signing off. We'll be seeing you soon.